What are some common challenges that healthcare professionals face when transitioning into leadership? Ooh, you could drop in some knowledge today, everyone.
The thing that I found that has been the most effective with the team is clear communication.
So welcome everybody to Leading with Dr. Stacy Bentil. I'm here with Yashica Lind, Leadership Catalyst, and we are thrilled to have you here today. So tell us a little bit about the Lind Group and how you empower organizations to optimal performance and all that strategy, and then we'll dive into a few questions.
Okay, so my name is Yashica. I'm the founder and CEO of the Lind Group. I founded the Lind Group primarily because I saw a gap in healthcare and specifically healthcare leadership. Before I started the Lind Group, I was a Navy nurse and an ER nurse. And so I got to do a lot of things in a lot of stressful and chaotic environments. But because we were equipped with certain tools, we weren't stressed out, we weren't burned out. We kind of felt like we had more support with what we needed to deal with stress. So when I got out of the Navy, came into the civilian world, one of the first leadership jobs that I got was in operations, where I would go around to different clinics and I would, see how the leaders were doing, see what they needed, see how clinical support, all that was going on. And these leaders would be crying and stressed out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh my God.
One was probably me.
Yeah. It's like I couldn't wrap my mind around it because I'm like, why are they crying? And, as I started to get to know them on a more personal level as a peer, it was because, number one, we get thrust into leadership usually because we're good at our previous roles. And so we don't have the tools we need to do that role. And then number two, we are all working short. And so it's just a combination of a whole bunch of things that aren't going to change. And so I had been working privately with clients all over the world, entrepreneurs, to help them with high performance and personal mastery. So I thought, why not take everything that I'm teaching these people that get it and try to bring that over to healthcare leadership? Because I think it will make it a lot easier. So number one. And number two, just because of the background that I have in healthcare operations and the connections that I have with some of the contractors I use on projects, we know healthcare. And so we can come in and help make things better. So that's the operational piece of the Lind Group.
Oh, that's amazing. And I can definitely see the benefit of it, that organizations, because there is a need. And it's, making these optimal performances. How do we tap into the leaders and making them have some well-being so they can really operationalize in the capacity that they're in? So it's definitely a need for that. So you're doing great work.
Totally. Thank you.
All right, so let's dive into a few questions here. Okay. Why do you believe leadership skills are essential for healthcare professionals?
Because I think that we are leaders, right? We sometimes, when we get into the role of going to work and doing our job, we think we're just going to work and doing our job. But specifically in healthcare, where you are looking for people to lead you, and also people looking at you like your patients, maybe the people that are on your team, maybe just by the very nature of being in your job for a very long time, you are a leader. And the leading that we do is not just like, okay, maybe we're going to place a food order and we might get it wrong. These are roles that are critical to the health and safety of not only our organization, but our community. Right. So I believe that it's a big responsibility to be a leader in healthcare because you influence your organization, you influence your community, because a lot of the places where you work, these people shop with you, they eat with you, they live amongst you, and then you contribute to the overall health of the population because that community has family and people all over the world. So there's this big health ecosystem that we all are responsible for, which makes leadership, especially in healthcare, very important.
And in healthcare, it's always changing.
Yeah.
Healthcare changes all the time, generations change all the time. And it's, who's going to empower the ones behind us? We may have some that paved the way for us. But then there's a future behind us that's coming in too, and how it looks like for them. So that's great that you said that. Going into the second question, Building foundational leadership skills is crucial for nurses who aspire to become leaders. Could you share some key fundamental practices that promote a successful healthcare environment and how one can develop these skills early in their careers?
Yes. So I don't know if you're new to me, then this is going to sound a little bit wonky because a lot of people start with what can I do outside of myself? So like what's my time management, my organization, what classes do I need to take? What certifications do I need to get?
Mm-hmm.
And that is not where I start at all. You really have to start from the inside out because a lot of the stuff and the junk and the trauma and the inner psychology that you bring to what you do in your professional and your personal life is going to heavily impact the energy that you expend when you're doing all the things that you're doing, and it also will impact how successful you become. So I always like to start with that internal psychology layer as being the most important and most fundamental piece, because if you can get that layer on wrap, then you come into any situation more centered, more prepared, more creative, more innovative. You're more inspirational to the people that you have to lead. And so it makes everything else a lot easier to do.
And it really dives into knowing oneself. You know, you really get to hone in on, who you are, why you want to go into this, profession, and what attributes and contributions you can bring to it. So that's definitely a good way. I think a lot of aspiring nurses or aspiring individuals that want to go into healthcare need to look at, it's not just, what credits do I need? What do I need to do to get there? Because that's usually, like you said, the first thing that they want to do is, follow someone else's path. But honing in on a different side of it, like you said, is it's definitely real.
And what you often find, especially for people that just think that, okay, well, let me take this path, get this certification, do this role so I can move up the chain. What you often find is that you're not even mindful about the fact that, is this right for you? Maybe it's right for you to, put more money in your pocket, be able to provide for your family, all of those things. Maybe the prestige of the role sounds good to you, but when you really look at your values and what's important for you and your heart and your soul, the path that you're trying to chase may not even be important for you. And so when you get there, you again stressed out, burned out, crying, it's a lot harder and traumatic. And a lot of the times what I found working with private clients is they want to blame the job for a lot of the stress, but a lot of it is the work that we fail to do internally to make sure we're even on the path that we should be on.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got Yashica Lind from the Lind Group with us today. Diving in on this. And this is why they call her the catalyst in leadership, because these are things that why we have to, bring this out into our community and bring these out to the future aspiring to come into healthcare, is to hear these conversations. It's definitely inspirational and real. Real. So let's go to the third question. Turning our attention to healthcare education, do you believe it's important to integrate leadership development programs into nursing education? And if so, how can we effectively incorporate these programs at the high school and college levels?
Of course, I believe that. And I think, again, that there is a large gap there in the curriculum to prepare healthcare individuals, healthcare workers to come into the organization with a leadership mindset. Because as I stated before, some people to say, okay, well, you're an MA, you're a CNA, you're a new RN, you're not a leader, but you are. Your patients are going to be asking you questions. Or if you're an RN, you may have to lead a team that includes an MA. You may have to be a leader to stand up to a doctor. So everybody to me is a leader in some way, shape, or form. So I already note that there's gaps. There was gaps when I went to school. I'm sure there are probably still gaps. What I, on my end, have just tried to do is bring awareness to educational systems that there is a gap. And again, if you don't address the gap, then what happens is these new nurses, they get thrown on the floor, or whoever, a doctor thrown on the floor, and people
Yeah.
are coming at them, expecting them to be that leader, to
Yeah.
know what's
To
going
know
on.
it all. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Better have the
They don't look
answer.
at you as like, oh, you just got here. No, you wear the badge, you have the role. I need to know what to do.
That's
And
right.
so I think that bringing the awareness to the school is number one, and also bringing awareness to the fact that the way that we taught leadership previously is not right. Because there are these classes in the curriculum that I've reviewed that have these theories about transformational leadership and
Yes.
servant
Yes.
leadership. But come on, like if that really worked,
Talk about it.
will we
Yashica.
be in the position that we are in now? So all
Yes.
of those theories are not applicable to real life. And again, I think it's because I can tell you how to do something the same way that I do it. But if you and I are in different spaces in our growth, in our maturity, in our experience, you can try to emulate what I do and it's not going to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something deeper going on. And I believe that the way that we can address it, yeah, I guess you could start in high school. That's a whole nother conversation about education reform. But I do think primarily in nursing school, we need to get away from all this theory that we all know it's important, but we don't know that when we get into the real life setting, it's not really, matching the theory. So we need to come up with something else.
And it's, and that's what I do. A lot of the work that I do with the dental healthcare consultant, we identify these gaps. We've walked that path. We've been in these programs, and we see as we evolve, the future, the generation is changing, but we're still keeping the curriculum the same and talking about a lot of, like, we understand the history of paving the way, but how do you apply a lot of this knowledge of transformational leadership, the authentic leader, the transactional leader, into real life practice? If I'm a new nurse, it's post-COVID, and my first job is in the ED. I may not be thinking of transformational leadership or transactional leadership theory when I have, 10 patients. I'm triaging. I have a gunshot wound that just came in. I just have a GI bleed that's going on. Like, how does that work? And then going into, so that's one aspect of it, of how we exude that nurse and make them a leader. But the other aspect of it is this generation has phones. We're checking in now, and they're on TikTok. Why you don't got a patient in front of you? Where's the etiquette in nursing practice today with this new generation? That's a lot with the Bentil healthcare consulting done with our blend program, because it looks different today. Yesterday's nurses is not today's nurses. It's a different time, but we have to keep up with how we educate them and evolve with them, because the world is different today, and it's gonna keep evolving, and we can't still be stuck in, as you stated, Yashica, learning different theories, even though we do acknowledge it, but it looks different today. And is it our reality now? Is it today's reality? How do they apply those concepts to what they're really facing out there? The population is very acute now. We have some sick individuals, and I think we just need to conduct how their leadership looks like now, and how they really can foster growth with how it is for them.
Yeah, like you said, with that acuity, it's like you can't just be thinking of, oh, I want to be a servant leader, when most of the time you have to be on it. You have to be strategic. You have to be innovative. You have to be creative. You have to be quick. So, and as we continue to have the shortages, not only of the manpower to do the work, but also the finances to do the work, the supplies to do the work, and all these theories where we have our door open 24/7 and we just flow in and flow out, and we may not have the time or the space or the resource for that. So, and like you said too, with the younger generation, how can we incorporate technology into it to keep them engaged, to keep them learning, so that they don't want to go on TikTok, but they're doing something meaningful with the technology and to the patient, right? It's a whole can of worms. So I'm glad that you're doing the work as well. We need it.
It is true. All right, let's go to our next question. Overcoming challenges is an inherent part of any leadership journey. What are some common challenges that healthcare professionals face when transitioning into leadership roles? And what insights, tips, and strategies can you offer to navigate these challenges successfully?
Ooh, that's a big question. Let's see. The first thing that I see is that oftentimes we think that if we've walked the path and we've obtained the role, then we have obtained the respect. And it's not true. You have to earn the respect, but you don't earn the respect, I think, the way that we think we need to, because I see a lot of leaders that get into a position, they feel like they got to prove themselves. They feel like they got to do all the things and can't say no and not have healthy boundaries. And that's not how you do it either.
Yeah.
And the way that you do it is think about the people that you do follow, like say in your personal life on Instagram, the people that are inspiring you or that are motivational to you or that influence you are not people that are doing all of the things and trying to be perfect. They're the people that are walking their path in their true authentic self, shining their light in their own individual way. So I think that the number one challenge is understanding what true leadership is, and then understanding what it means to be someone that is able to influence a team to get behind a mission, a vision, or even just the day-to-day task. And it has to do with you being someone that is worthy of influencing and inspiring someone. So that's the number one thing, is the role. The number two thing I see, and I mentioned it a little bit, is the boundaries. For one reason or another, there are a lot of people, a lot of us, especially in healthcare, that just don't have good, healthy boundaries. And it could be,
I agree.
Yeah. And it could be from like feeling like we need to overachieve, or, because our schooling was so rigorous, or it could be some of the cultural things that we've grown up with in our individual families. But at the end of the day, you cannot do all, you cannot be all. And so you're going to have to learn how to assert healthy boundaries. And as a new leader coming into leadership, I think it's the perfect time for you to understand what it's going to look like for you and what you want it to look like, so that you can start to create the boundaries around your professional practice early on in your career. Let's see, anything else? I think mistakes. I think that not being a leader in your own life too is a big mistake. I think sometimes we think that we can have our home life be a hot mess, and then we drive to work, and then we walk into work, and then we're a leader. But true people that are leaders, they're not just leaders at work. People can sense that energy when you come into work with messy energy. They may not know that your life is a mess, but your energy is a mess, and people pick up on that. And if you want to truly be a leader, and you want to do it in a way where it's easy for you, you're not stressed out, you're not burned out, then you have to learn how to live by certain standards in your life, not just at work, but at home. So getting all that kind of stuff cleaned up will make everything much easier for you when you do have to operate optimally in a role that's always changing, that's high paced, that's dynamic, that type of thing.
Yes, I agree. And another challenge too, because, we're leaders ourselves, is, like you said, having that balance with, work life, and that wellness piece. Because if you're in a leadership position and you have about 60 FTEs that report to you, they're going to come to you with all their issues, all their concerns. You have to have the answer and or fix it all. And, everybody has, their issues or their problems. But what about the leader? They may be going through some stuff too. Yeah. I got my own problems, something I'll be thinking of. And it's like, you have to have probably that discipline piece, and honing in to know, how can you take a breath and take some time when you need to, so you can continue to lead. Healthy leading is important too. And your own mental state and wellness is important as well, in order to effectively lead the others that are all aspiring and looking at you for that, that answer, that go-to, that help all the time. And it can be very challenging. It can weigh in on a lot as a leader, because you may be going through your challenges, your difficult time, whether it's family, finance, personal things, but you still have a large group that either reports to you or is looking to you to still lead them.
Yeah. And like you said, you see how that makes it so much harder when you have this holistic approach to the family, the personal life, and the work life. And so I don't think that leaders understand enough that if you can center yourself, have the standards and the boundaries in all areas, how much easier the leadership journey will be for you.
That's true.
Yeah.
Very true. Yashica dropping some knowledge today, everyone. All right. Personal development and self-reflection are key components of leadership growth. Could you emphasize the importance of personal growth, self-reflection, and continuous learning in developing leadership skills? And what are some practical ways for healthcare professionals to engage in these activities?
Right. So to me, everything that you asked in that question it stems or it ties into emotional intelligence. So I think that at the end of the day, your personal development and your growth and everything is a bit of emotional intelligence, because number one, you find when you are triggered, or I say like activated, because to me, when you get triggered, to me, that's a sign that, yeah, because it's
I love that.
going to turn inward, right? And see, well, why is this happening? That's like a alarm system for me. So I think that for personal growth and development, the emotional intelligence piece of that is the work that's stressful. If it's triggering or activating, why is it activating? And that will help you to look at the things that are not ideal as growth opportunities and learning opportunities. Let's see. I also feel like this is a big question, because this is everything that I do. I think that it also helps you to relate to your team better. So not only are you relating to yourself and how you feel internally, but you're able to pick up on things that are often unsaid around your team, around leadership, around the things that you have to deal with, and then use that information to help you lead and guide better in your leadership style and the way that you lead your team. So personal growth, personal development, all of that, very important. How can you start to integrate that practically? Reflection. A lot of times we'll read an article or we'll read a book because we're used to being lifelong learners, but just because you read something doesn't mean that you critically understand something. So how about reading and then reflecting? Or if you have something that's going on that you don't like at work, again, people call it triggering. That's activating something inside of you. Why do you feel activated behind that thing? And maybe reflect on that. For if you have team members that are not wanting to do the work, and no matter what, it's like, why don't you just show up and do what you need to do? Let's be a little bit more emotionally intelligent. Maybe there's something going on deeper beneath the surface, because if all the other personal stuff is not clean, they're not coming to work with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs that they want to come in and be a team. They might just only care about getting their basic needs met with the paycheck. They're on a different level, so I think that reflection is a big part of things. Always being curious, not assuming that this is a bad situation or a good situation, going underneath the surface to say, well, why is this good? Why is this bad? What could be happening? And being more exploratory in that. To do that, probably. I like to do journaling. Sometimes if you're not a journaler, it just kind of helps to just talk and think and do like mind maps and kind of just knock things out on paper without having to think you have to do a journaling process, or building in reflective time in your day. If you when I work with private clients, one of the number one things that I do is tell them to get centered. And it's not just centering maybe once a day. Like if you go to church, you're not just going to go to church on Sunday and then it's going to carry you the rest of the week. You got to build in moments every day or every hour, every few hours, to make sure that you're showing up as your best self. And so if you have to build in tools to actually make you pause and make you get back to yourself and your best self, then you may have to build those kind of tools into your day as well.
Wow. These are some straight gems you are dropping today. This is great. This is great, Yashica. Let's now explore team leadership within healthcare settings. Could you provide some guidance on effective team leadership, communication, and collaboration, and share some best practices and real life examples for the teams?
Yeah. So the thing that I found that has been the most effective with the team is clear communication. And it doesn't have to be transparency where you're sharing everything, but I do think you need to be clear. You need to be on the same page, and you need to not make sure that it's not clear to you as the leader, what you think that you're communicating, but that is clear to the people that have to pick up whatever it is that you're putting down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. Number two, and this goes hand in hand with best practice. I find that people don't huddle enough. And when they do huddle, like we may huddle in the ER, right? Because you got to give report, you got to talk, but huddles are pertinent to every environment. And a huddle is not there for us to talk about everything under the sun. A huddle is just for us to share some clear communication on the status of how we're doing as a team. Now, if you tie the huddle into something that's visual, like a board, it makes it that much more effective. For instance, for me as a leader, I'm there to be this resource to make sure that my team's job is made easier so that they can do what it is they need to do. So if they come to me with issues, with problems, then what I had in place was a status board, so they could see what I was working on versus what they, came to me about, and they could see where I was in the process. So for huddle, in that instance, where it would be effective is, hey, team, this is where I'm at with some of the things that you have told me
Mm-hmm.
about or that I'm working on. And this is
Mm-hmm.
why these things are here or there, stalled or whatever, so that
Right.
they know that I have their back and I'm doing stuff, because a lot of times as leaders, they cannot see what we're doing. It looks
Right.
like we're on a phone or in meetings all
Oh
day.
yes, that's all she
No,
does. Like she'll never come
yeah,
out the office. It's like,
yeah. And so
yeah.
you can incorporate and gamify that for your team as well. So a huddle is not just people not staying on track with conversations that we need to know to drive the work for the day. You can gamify it by creating boards or systems or tools so that when you're huddling, you are looking at this board or system or tool so that everybody kind of knows why we're having this conversation, why we're behind, what's going on that we all need to be aware of. And that makes it better for everybody to work together as a team as well too, because it's not just me and my patients over here and me and my patients over there. It's no, we have this whole status as a team that we're all trying to work toward. And we all need to know about these things, because at any time you may have to pick up slack. So I like making it more team oriented through conversation.
All inclusive. That
Yeah.
inclusiveness is
Yeah.
important.
So I think just to start off with, those would probably be some good ways to bring in some.
Awesome. That's awesome. Finally, let's discuss emerging trends in healthcare leadership. Can you share your thoughts on current trends and innovations, such as the role of technology, interprofessional collaboration, and patient-centered care, and discuss their implications of nursing professionals?
Yeah, so the two pieces of technology that I am very excited about, and I just did a conference talk on this, was number one, using more of the virtual reality or mixed reality in our settings. I think that is very helpful. For instance, instead of having, putting on virtual reality glasses and seeing a Sims-like environment,
Yep, they do a lot of
maybe
sim labs.
yeah, I don't like that. And I like how now you can put on the glasses and actually, like if you have a new nurse and you say, Mrs. Sims' blood pressure is high, they can actually look at Miss Sims and see the heart pumping and see what's going on inside of her body to understand a little bit more about why you need to take vital signs every however many minutes. Or with a person with infection, why you need to do oral care and all this kind of stuff. They can see it. And so I think that that's a good thing. And you can also bring that into the learning setting. And you can also use this type of training for, like we talked about, leadership development. So it's not just a leader that's just coming to work to do their job. Maybe with the simulation, we can actually show what's going on in a leader's personal life or scenarios about our patient's personal life, so we could develop more empathy and understanding for the person that has to show up and do the work, and understand they're not just a nurse or doctor or a leader. They are a real person. That's been shown research wise to develop more empathy. And then I'm trying to think of another piece of technology. And again, I do think, like I said, gamifying things a little bit.
Yeah, keeps them
Younger
engaged.
people, yeah,
Keeps them
more
fun.
engaged. Yeah. So I think that kind of stuff would help the younger generation be more engaged. And my last piece of technology is the collaborative environment that you can have. So maybe you have not only people on your team or on your floor that are collaborating in a huddle type of environment, but what if you could use technology to pull in nurses from the ER, nurses from ICU, so that you're all actually collaborating in real time?
Yes, you can run a real emergency response drill that way.
Yes. So I think stuff like that
look
is
at us. Yes, yes, I agree. That's a real interdisciplinary team approach that you're really doing it at that level. That's great. And that's real life. When COVID hit, you needed ICU nurses, you needed the ED, you needed the med surg. What's happening maternal fetal health? What's going on with them? Who's delivering during this time? It all hit. And when it hits, it affects the whole system.
The whole
system. So how does the system come together at that piece? This is great. This is great. Before we wrap up, do you have any final words of encouragement or advice for the audience and healthcare professionals aspiring to be exceptional leaders like yourself? And definitely drop how we can follow you and how we can learn more from you and things like that. You're so inspirational, Yashica.
Yeah. So number one, my biggest piece of advice is don't be scared, because at the end of the spectrum, you have leaders or not new nurses, but nurses or other healthcare workers that want to step into leadership, but they're scared because they've seen managers and other leaders stressed out. They're all the time crying and everything. And I want you all to know, for those of you that want to be leaders, is that it doesn't have to be that way. I guarantee you that if you have the tools that you need in place and they're there, you can get them through studying on your own. You can get them through coaching, mentorship, consulting, all kinds of things. There are tools that are available to you to be successful. And if you get those tools under your belt, you're going to see that leadership can be a very rewarding career opportunity for you. And it's not just about you being able to shape and inspire, like I said, the people in your organization, but it's your community at large. And in the secondary piece, it's important, right, to get compensated for what you do. So it also will help you to further whatever you want to do in your personal life when it comes to your financial goals and your family. So do not be scared of leadership. If you are centered, if you are authentic, if you are doing the inner work, I promise it will not be as bad as you think it is. And there are tools, so tap into those tools to help you. Don't be afraid to get help. And don't think that your organization knows it all, because I think as much as I love healthcare, we're not as innovative and we're not as forward thinking in these areas as we should be. And so you may have to look for these type of tools for self-leadership and personal mastery outside of your organization or outside of healthcare in general, but they are there and they're abundant. And then for anyone that's wanted to know where I am, I primarily focus a lot on LinkedIn. So I'm at Yashica Lind on LinkedIn. But I keep a presence on every site. So LinkedIn is the Lind Group, YouTube is Yashica Lind, LinkedIn is Yashica Lind as well. And you can also go to yashicalind.com.
It was a pleasure having you, Yashica.
Thank you for having
a lot of knowledge and gems today. We look forward to talking to you down in the future and having more of your presence and more of your knowledge base. It's going to be great for not only experienced leaders, but the novice leaders and the aspiring leaders, and just having your presence and hearing a lot of this knowledge base that they need to know as current leaders and aspiring leaders. It's just going to be beneficial for them. We thank you so much for all the work that you do, and we look forward to seeing you some more.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Of course. All right. Take care.